Today we're talking about one of the most hidden areas around Orlando when it comes to living, and honestly it's gaining popularity by those who have lived here for a period of time, and those that are moving here. Not many of them really catch on to the fact about this area, and really it hasn't fully caught on to the crazy development that we've been seeing around Orlando. It's starting to, but there's still a lot of great neighborhoods, and that is Clermont, Florida. So we're going to be talking about Clermont, the good, the bad about it. Is it for you? Is it not for you? What it's like, sharing you some footage of what it looks like in Clermont, and we're gonna get into it right now. Everyone, so getting into it, so Clermont, Florida is obviously located, when you're looking at Orlando, it is located north and west. It looks like it's tucked away, and for a lot of people when it comes to looking at the map of Clermont, they really think it's far away than what it really is. To be honest with you, depending where you're trying to go to, it really isn't that bad. Obviously, a lot of people, they look at like the Winter Gardens, they look at Dr. Phillips and like, oh, it's so in the place. But believe it or not, because of how bad traffic is on the 4 in a lot of those areas, Clermont, it really isn't that bad. And I know one of you recently mentioned comments about communities to live in when you want to go to Disney a lot. To be honest with you, I think Clermont's one of those hidden communities because it's one of those locations that's in an area where you can actually easily travel to Disney and it's not that bad. I would much rather live in Clermont than say the last video we did, which was down in Davenport and Kissimmee and stuff like that, because that 4 is so crazy all the time. When you live north in communities like Clermont, you can kind of get the back door into Disney World, and it kind of circumvents a lot of that crazy traffic. Now I will say, obviously, like anything, the 27 and toll roads are still going to be your thing when it comes to getting out of Clermont. So understand that that is some cons when it comes to living there. Is, like I said, it's not the best, but it's not the worst. Now, obviously, I'm going to be bringing up some images right now about some travel times of how long it takes to travel to certain areas. Now, right now, I'm going to bring up the traveling to the airport. So let's say you're trying to leave from Clermont to the airport. Well, Clermont, this is about the distance that it is from the airport. Now, this is obviously, I took all these times during peak travel hours in the morning, so 9 to 10 a.m. And so understand that that's going to change depending what time of the day you're trying to go. But overall, it's not the worst. Traveling to the airport can be a bit of a pain compared to some other areas, but I can tell you that's roughly the same travel time I run into when it comes to leaving from Davenport. So take that with a grain of salt. Now, the next one I'm going to show you is the travel time it takes going to Disney World. So, and a lot of you really care about Disney World. They got families like myself. And this right here is how long it takes to get to Walt Disney World. And I would take this any day of the week because a lot of times that's like the normal time going from Davenport to Walt Disney World, but that's not even including the crazy traffic. That 4 really can destroy you. So Clermont has one of the blessings, can go in the back door and kind of avoid a lot of that traffic areas. And then obviously if you're looking to get to like just Central Orlando, we have that time as well, which I'll bring up right now. But understand that, you know, leaving from Clermont, it's not, I'm not gonna say it's like the best hidden gem when it comes to traveling, because that can be a con, especially, you know, I have a lot of you who they travel for work and things like that, and they're trying to figure that stuff out. But these are the rough travel times when it comes to leaving Clermont, and so take that with an understanding of where this place is located and the pros and cons, because really when it comes to traveling like that, it really depends on your situation, whether it's a good or bad one. But you know, it's hard to tell in that moment without actually going there and driving yourself. But we're going to get into what the community looks like right now. So when it comes to Clermont, there are a lot of things I really love about it, and that's just for me. So if you're like me, I'm not a huge city person. I like to feel like I'm not too far from things, but I do love being a little bit out there. It does not bother me. And Clermont really fits that bill. So it's located right on Lake Mineola. So if you go to downtown Clermont, the first thing you're going to see is like obviously they have like the walkways along Lake Mineola. They have brick driving around the downtown area, and it's not like a huge downtown area. But I will tell you, Clermont is starting to expand, and I can imagine in 10 more years what it's going to look like in this area. But you know, it really has that calm feeling. And you know, it's crazy. The day that I went there, right? You look at you're down in Davenport, Haines City, all that area. The craziness that is always ensuing with people who are visiting, all that stuff. It's crazy all the time. By the time you get to Clermont, it's just like a normal small town traffic. Now, obviously, there are choke points leaving, especially heading east or south on 27 sometimes. But when you're actually in Clermont, it's like a whole different world currently than what it is in like a lot of other places around Orlando. It's one of the biggest blessings I have about it. I mean, and obviously Lake Mineola itself is just a beautiful lake. I mean, it's not going to be the biggest lake around Orlando, but you know, for a lot of us, it's awesome. I mean, it's beautiful. So there's a lot of things you can do with it, but it's really cool that you can be located right on, and you're really not far from the lake if you do have a boat or something like that you want to take out. Now, normal homes inside, you know, there are a lot of newer construction communities, especially heading west. And by the way, if you're looking at new construction, I'll always have a link down below where you can look up those. But a lot of those new construction communities are a little bit west. Some are near Clermont. They're sprinkled around there. So there are new construction opportunities. But even a lot of the older communities around Clermont, like they're nice. They're not like stuffed in on each other. And as you'll see right now, some of them are on small hills. That's right. Clermont is, they call it a mountain range of Florida. It's a mountain range, especially those of us who have been a lot of places, a mountain range. But there are there's a hilly aspect to Clermont, which throws people off. They come to Florida like, oh yeah, everything's flat. But I'll show you some images right now. So the first one you're gonna see is one of the communities heading away from Lake Mineola as I was traveling around the community. And as you can see, you're going uphill, which is not like normal. Yeah, there might be like small bumps as you're traveling around Orlando, but not really to this standard. And that's one of the cool things about Clermont. Now, these are older homes, but sometimes you can find a home with a basement. It's not common. There's a lot of them, but it does happen. Like, so that gives you an idea of like the somewhat hilly aspect in Clermont. It's I love it. And especially if you're a lot of people come to Florida, they love it, but they're like, man, it's just so flat. Clermont is kind of that's just how it is. It has a small hilly aspect to it. So as you can see, these homes, like you're going uphill. And then I'm even gonna show you an image right now. This is me leaving Clermont, heading south on the 27. As you can see here, like there's like some small amount of hills as you're traveling away from Clermont. And that's one of the greatest pros to me, is that you have like a different scenery. So you have Florida in its all entirety, but at the same time, you know, it's really just like it's like you're in your own different world, because you have the hills, you have a smaller community feel. It's not like the craziness of traffic that you're used to in a lot of the other communities around Orlando, especially during peak travel times. Clermont just has that aspect. Now, keep in mind, the average home price for a 3-bed, 2-bath. So we're going to give you price and rent. So when it comes to the cost of living in Clermont, it's definitely not the cheapest community out there. So, especially compared to the Davenport that we just did, a couple weeks ago. So Clermont, the average price is about $450,000. Now that's at the higher end. You can find homes cheaper than that for a 3-bed, 2-bath with a garage. So there are ones cheaper than that. Just take that with a grain of salt. When I do these averages, I'm always giving you the highest, but just to let you know, there are options lower than that to do that. Now, and I saw some even as low as $397. So just to give you an idea, and that's for single family. Now, if you're looking at renting for the same type, you're looking anywhere from $2,200 all the way up to like $2,700 was the highest rent I saw right now at the time. So big fluctuation, depends on what part of the community. Don't forget there are homes also in Clermont that have lake access, and like there are some other smaller lakes around Clermont that people have access to. So some of these homes, and I saw some for rent as I was driving around, like you'll have a home on one side, and then you'll have the home has access to the dock on the other side for like these smaller lakes. Don't forget, Florida has lakes everywhere. So Lake Mineola is the big one, but there are smaller lakes around Clermont that people have access to, and they have their own docks. And if you're like my wife and you love to fish, this could be your thing. So don't forget, if you are looking for like boat access or just something that's like, fishing and stuff like that, there's a lot of homes around Clermont that have the access to those docks and stuff like that. Now, if you're renting, who knows how the landlord is going to be picking. It's not my style. I prefer owning, because then I can do a little bit more of whatever the heck I want. So keep that in mind when it comes to renting around Clermont. You don't even know how people are going to feel about it, but obviously, there's a lot of public boat access all over Clermont, so keep that in mind. Now, another pro about living in Clermont, and this has happened, they just opened a Costco. So before, a lot of people, their issue with Clermont is they loved all the pros we talked about already, but they had an issue with like certain stores and shops, and they'd have to travel a little bit east to get any of that things, or south. Well, it's starting to change a lot, and they just opened a Costco heading east from Clermont. There's a lot of things coming to Clermont because people are moving there. And look, businesses are smart, they see the influx of people. Normally, like I do have some people that have reached out to me on this channel, and by the way, this is a perfect time to remind you that, you know, there's a lot of things when it comes to moving to Orlando that you have to be aware of. And this is one of those, because when people, you know, they're moving to the area, they run into a situation where they, you know, they look at Davenport, stuff like that. I don't have too many people that have actually reached out and say, hey, how's Clermont? Even though Clermont would be a good fit for them. Reason being is like it's kind of still like a small hidden gem. Now, if you actually live in the Davenport area, if you ever traveled there, you talk to a lot of the locals, a lot of them are like, oh yeah, we're looking to move to Clermont. Because that's where a lot of the stability is going. Because people see the craziness of Davenport, they're building so much. Like I can't even imagine packing more people into this space. We're worse than sardines at this point. And you know, Clermont just has that aspect where it's just calmer. It's still not crazy built out, but it has enough of the amenities to where you're like, you know what, this is going to be a great place to raise a family. Schools tend to, like, again, they're part of that great swath between Clermont and like Lake Mary, coming soon, by the way, on that one, where they just have, like, their schools tend to be a lot higher rated than the Polk County schools. You know, because up in Lake County, they just tend to have better school ratings than a lot of other areas. So keep that in mind when it comes to looking at places around Orlando. Is that, you know, schools tend to be great. Crime tends to be a little bit lower when you look at the numbers that are on public data. So it's not a bad community. Now, like I said before, the biggest cons is that you're going to run into is the fact that, you know, depending where you're trying to travel to, it can be a little tedious. Sometimes, depending where you're trying to go in for work, you may have to be taking toll roads. It happens. There are certain areas getting out of Clermont where taking a toll road is the better option. Not always, but it is an option. The 27, it's literally a highway with lights. So it can get a little annoying, so keep that in mind. And then another con really is the cost. But keep in mind, that's central Clermont. Obviously, if you're willing to go a little bit more west, there's a lot of cheaper new construction and home opportunities for people to get used to. And you kind of get to avoid some of that higher cost that is in central Clermont. But you have to remember that obviously that's with any community around here. When you're willing to go a little bit outside, it tends to get a little bit cheaper. Now, I will tell you, when it comes to homes here in Florida, once you leave like the main suburbs and you're trying to find cheaper homes, sometimes you don't. And that's because the homes have a decent amount of land, which makes them more expensive than the homes in the suburbs. So it's like this weird dichotomy of things you're trying to work with around the area to make sure that you can find the best price and things like that. Overall, there's not too much different. The biggest thing is that it's like the landscape looks different. To summarize everything, the landscape looks different. Shops are coming there, but maybe some of the stores you want aren't there yet. I didn't see an issue when it came to like your grocery stores, or now that Costco's up there. So all in all, I think a lot, now that Costco opened end of last fall, I think we're doing okay when it comes to stores. So that would have been a con before, and now it's not really one because you can get most of the places you want there. Getting to Disney, I think, is a lot easier. Getting to the airport can be bad depending, like one accident's gonna throw off that drive time. If for some reason there's a weird traffic jam that day, that's going to throw it off. So things like that are definitely going to hurt your drive when it comes to leaving Clermont. But if you're like me and you're looking to get something to where you're trying to feel like when you go home, you're just in a whole different world, I think Clermont is that place. So hope you got value in this video. Don't forget, if you are moving to Orlando, what we do is specialize in relocation. The number down below is how you can get a hold of me. You can call, text, or email. It does not matter. Go straight to me. Keep in mind, I've been in the military, I've relocated a bunch of times. This is what we do. We help people when it comes to relocation. A lot of people, they've never even moved from Orlando, and they don't even understand the process when it comes to move here. They just know that people do it, and they try and capitalize off it. That's not what I'm trying to do here per se. I just am really good when it comes to relocation. Not just helping you get into a home, but also helping you create that plan to make sure it goes as smoothly as possible. So, hope you got value in this video. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. See you in the next one.